These readings belong to the Mass. You, the priest, accompanying you to Ars, to the shrine, would celebrate before the incorrupt body of Saint John Vianney. And imagine, you already had a look on Ars through Google Earth or through postcards, a small village. At the time of Saint John Vianney, only 230 people. That's all. Now, 1,200 people. It's a small village. And you can enjoy also the French countryside if you come to Ars. Well, at the time of the Curé of Ars, when he was sent by his Vicar General to be a priest there, to be a curé, to be a pastor, a parish priest, the church in France was destroyed. It was just after Revolution. So many Catholics died or were killed. Even the Archbishop, the Cardinal Fesch of Lyon, had to escape. Of course, he was a nephew to Napoleon, an uncle. So after Waterloo, Napoleon was in jail, and there was no more bishop in the big town of Lyon. Nobody to ordain John Vianney. So he had to go to Grenoble to be ordained by the Bishop of Grenoble. But you imagine after the Revolution, churches were destroyed. The Cluny, the big monastery, was destroyed. The church is, well, even the clergy was divided because among those, the priests who swore for the revolutionary government and those who escaped and were living in a clandestine church. So you see, everything was divided. And in this division, even the state of the parish churches were not so beautiful like yours. Everything was abandoned. So you imagine, and it was well known that the Catholics or those, the believers, they were low human category because they did not adhere to the new philosophy of light. So you would not believe in the Trinity, and those believing in Trinity, in Jesus, they were just poor men. They were not clever, not intelligent enough to believe in the lights. So you imagine the situation. And the Ars was a small village, very foggy, more than London. So for French it is a horror film, no? Foggy, so foggy that no priest accepted to any mission to Ars. It was, and so the Vicar General, not the Archbishop, the Vicar General told him after his ordination, well, your mission is to go to Ars. Okay, my mission? Well, there is a few love of God in that village. You will bring some love of God. That's all. His mission. So we understand better now why the Church wanted to keep in a special way Saint John Vianney's heart. The whole body was incorrupt after more than 40 years as it was buried, but the whole body was incorrupt. But as Saint John Vianney had the mission to bring the love of God and the love to the people, to the brothers and sisters, to us, so he was just heart of love. And He used to speak sometimes also of the mission of the priests in the communities, in the villages, in the towns, in the parishes. He just used to say, a priest, what does it mean? It is the presence in the middle of a community. It is the presence of the love of God. It's a heart filled by the love of God, a heart sharing the love of God, a heart always heart to heart with God in an immersive experience of Trinitarian love, prayer, and heart to heart with the people. At those times, the parish priest used only to visit the benefactors, the house of the benefactors. John Vianney introduced a new way, pastoral way. He used to visit all families, each family after each other. And especially at noontime, because you know that for us French, lunch is sacred. And so he knew that he would meet the whole family. And so he was heart to heart with the families, with the people. Heart to heart also to the penitents. He was a great confessor. So many people were coming to ask just to meet him, to encounter him in the sacrament of reconciliation. Heart to heart. So we better understand why this heart, to be heart to heart, is that not have we not to focus on that as Christians, as baptized, but especially also as priests. Heart to heart with God, heart to heart with our families, with our parishioners, heart to heart. That's all. That was all for the Cure of Ars. And witnessing the love of God in the middle of a community. Well, if priesthood is that, we will need priests until the end of the world. And he is the patron priest of the parish priest of the world, because he tried to live that in a very special way. John Paul II coming to Ars for a retreat for priests, the whole day he described what a priest is with his community, no? Loving his community, bearing, carrying his community, what it is. And he chose this gospel we just read now, Matthew chapter 9. Said Jesus was going, was making a tour through all the towns and villages, teaching in the synagogues. Don't imagine that the Cure of Ars was only sitting in the confessional. At the end of his life, yes, but at the beginning, he was going with the brothers priests and with lay people from a village to a town to evangelize, because it was after the revolution. People needed evangelization. No, he was going, and as he knew that he was very bad in Latin, he didn't pretend to preach. And the fellow priests, they just told him, go to the confessional, that's your place, that's for you, that's for you. And okay, he was a very, very humble. And so that's the way the people got to know him. And for the beatification, the process, you know, we have many testimonies in our archives in Ars. All testimonies are focusing on that. In the confessional, we used to meet the tenderness of God. We used to meet the tenderness of God. That's why then the people, getting to know him in the evangelization all around, they came to Ars, to him, to confess once again and once again. He was very humble, so humble. In the seminary, maybe some of you know the city of Dubuque in the United States. It is in Iowa. So the first bishop of Dubuque, Matthias Rojas, was a French. And he studied in the same seminary together with John Vianney. He was brilliant. I became a bishop. He was brilliant. At the age of 12, he already knew Latin. John Vianney was 21, 22, 23 years old, and he couldn't match Latin. Not that he would not be clever enough, but his father wanted him to become a farmer. And so he wouldn't need to speak Latin with the horses and no. So it was not needed. That's why he never has learned Latin. But in the seminary they were together. So this young boy, brilliant, 12 years old, Matthias Rojas, and John. And well, Matthias got angry to him because he was losing time because of him. No, the teacher had to repeat and repeat and repeat, and Matthias was losing time. Oh, his destination was United States, huh? So he didn't lose any time. Huh? And he was so angry, he got so angry to John that he told him, "You, big one, big brother, you are just ignorant, and I am angry to you. I lose my time with you because of you." You know what John did with this boy, 12 years old? He just fell down, kneeling to him, and begging for pardon, telling him, "I ask you for pardon because really I am the cause of you losing time. I know that. I know. Have mercy on me." And he was crying. Who of us would have done this? I don't know. Most probably there are saints also in the United States. I have no doubt. But who would have done that? And you know what Matthias did? He turned to himself and he knelt down before John and said, "No, I am guilty. I had not to shout to you, to be angry with you." And in this both kneeling down, they sealed a beautiful friendship. We have still letters from the Bishop of Dubuque in Ars. And he died, Matthias Rojas, as first bishop there, died 1 year before John Vianney. And well, of course, he had the same spirituality. But it is interesting to see that to find solution, maybe we have not only the proposal of shut down, we have also the proposal of kneel down to each other, to find new solution. Well, this is the love of God, producing this kind of solution. Why did I say that? I don't know. But so a very humble man. Once journalist came to him and asked him, "What is your impression, Father? So many people are coming here to you from France, even from Europe. Crowds coming to you. People waiting for 1 week in order to confess to you. So are you not honored of that?" And he just used to answer, "I am like zeros. I have value only put next to others. So if you put 1 before zeros, you may have 1 billion. But you are zeros. And the number 1 for the Curé of Ars was Jesus. He knew that he was like zeros, but put together with Jesus and with his brothers, He knew that he was worth much, but he was aware of being zero. So he was aware that only opening his heart to the love of God, his heart, opening it, he would be filled. As a zero, he would be filled with the grace of God. And he would do something, well, he would share the love of God. But he needed to be like zero. And I don't know exactly, but I will just tell you something about his, as he was a young boy, and before entering the seminary, he had he got enrolled in the army, in the Napoleonic army, and he was going from Lyon with this army, with the soldiers, towards Spain. But, well, we will never know exactly what happened, but he lost his way. And he, for more than 1 year, he was a deserter. He was hidden in a village on the top of the mountain. Well, he was doing good things. He was teaching, but he didn't give any news of him, of course, to his family. He was hiding. After more than 1 year, going back to his family house, knocking at the door, just his father came out and told, "Go away, go to the cemetery. You are the reason for which our family is suffering so much. Because of you, having deserted, your brother, your young brother, Francis, was drafted into the army in your place, and he went to the front towards Germany, and he died in the fighting instead of you. And your mother, you loved so much, your mother, she died for despairing, died of despair for you. She didn't know where you were, and she died of despair for your brother who died. And all that because of you. Because of you. So go to the cemetery. And we don't know. But sure that his father didn't forgive him. Maybe dying, maybe. But he didn't want to forgive him, because he said we were a good family. We were happy. And you are the reason we are so sad now. So you imagine the weight that this boy, this young seminarian, was to bear in his heart. Even if you are, in his conscience, he never found any sin in that, because he lost his way, but he felt guilty. And between guilt and sin there is a difference, a great difference. It is not what you feel as a guilt that would be really a sin. No, there is a difference. But he felt guilty for a long time. We have a letter from him, from the seminary to his father. Many letters he wrote, so to beg for pardon. He was blamed, he was aware to be blamed for the misfortune that had befallen the family. And so he expressed with a deep pathos his guilt. Father, I am the most unworthy of your children. I abused your goodness. I am unworthy of your kindness. I do deserve that perpetual indignation. You imagine what it meant for this boy, perpetual indignation. I am the unworthy son who deserves only contempt. How to find healing for this situation when you feel so guilty? How can we explain that after 20 years, this boy, this man, this young man would be this young priest, receiving so many penitents from all over France, looking for healing, looking for pardon, looking to rise again with Christ? How to explain that he became able to relieve them, to help them, to be free from sin and from guilt? How to explain that? Sure, there is only one explanation. This young man found healing in his encounter with Christ's mercy, with his mercy. He got healed by his mercy. This wound, he was a wounded man. He had a wounded heart. This wound was healed by the love of God, the mercy of God. He was the first to experience the love of God in his body, in his life. He was not telling. He tried to do that at the beginning of his ministry in Ars. He tried to remember, to the homily and to preach without, you see, I am looking at, but he tried not to look on his text, but he lost his words and it was terrible. And once it happened, he was preaching, and then losing, not remembering anything, he just said, but the Lord is here, He is here, His love is here. People were just struck in their heart, touched in their heart, because they felt that what he was saying was an experience. He was the first to be healed by the love of God. He was the first to need the love of God every day. And as a matter of fact, he used to say, from the very beginning of my day, any time I need to bath in the love of God. Sometimes he was, of course, encountering pilgrims around the Basilica, and he used to ask. He has a kind of humor on himself. That's the best humor. When you are able to have humor on your life, not on the others, but on yourself. We French, we very often have humor on Belgian people. but never on ourselves. And so he used to have humor and a sense of humor. And so meeting the people, he asked them, did you bath today? Had you your bath today? And the people did not know how to answer. And he told them, I had my bath today, the bath in the love of God. So it was really an immersive experience of the love of God. And he knew that every day, he would need this experience. He used to say it especially when a journalist asked him, what is your impression about this success you have so many crowds coming to you, he used to answer, the good Lord, the Lord who needs no one, uses me for this great work, although I am only a priest without science. If he could have found another priest in the diocese who would have had more reason than me, than I, to humiliate himself, he would have taken him, he would have done 100 times more good if the good Lord had found another priest in the diocese who would have had more reason than I to humiliate himself. You imagine? So he found many, many reasons every day to humiliate himself in the bath of the love of God, of the mercy of God. He was, his heart, we can say, was always open, always in a certain way wounded. He needed the Lord. He needed his love every day in an immersive experience. He needed. Even there was a priest in the diocese, nobody wanted him to be their parish priest. No, they just wrote letters to the bishop. Please, 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 bishop, do not send us the Abbé Raymond, Father Raymond. And no priest wanted to have him as a confrère together with him. No priest wanted, because he was horrible. Very proud, very... the Curé of Ars asked the bishop to send him to him, said, I need this priest to be with me. But he was even, well, he used to sign for the curé, for the parish priest, baptisms and so on in the archives. He tried to take the money of the pilgrims to administrate instead of the Curé of Ars, who was very kind to the poor people. Once the bishop was afraid, because he said, the Curé of Ars is too humble, Abbé Raymond will destroy him. I will go to Ars and liberate and free him from Abbé Raymond. And we have a letter in our archives of the Curé of Ars writing to the bishop and explaining that he do not want to be rid of Abbé Raymond. He says, you know, he has never hit me, beaten me. He's a good priest. And sometimes he tells me my truth. It means that I need him to, in a certain way, in a certain extent, I listen to his words as if they were coming from the Lord. In a certain extent, he tells me my truth. I need such a priest. And if you send him away, I will go away together with him. We have this letter to this bishop. It is, well, it is, we need such a humility to discover this. But why, what happened to him? He was a wounded heart who found his relief only in the mercy of God, in the love of God. And that's why you see he was free, he was void of himself to be filled by the grace of God. I am zero. And what did he teach? What did he show? What did he tell about the sacrament of penance? The people were coming and they were confessing for about 4 minutes, and, well, other times. And now we need more time to confess because we need also to have a good conversation, sure, spiritual conversation with our priests. But why, how, in the year of mercy, our priests, the chaplains of the Shrine of Ars, we asked ourselves, how did he do? What was his secret? And the people used to go out, risen again with Christ. How could they do this experience of the mercy, of the tenderness of God in a so fast confession? And we got to read, maybe you read it also, it is an interview with Pope Francis about confession. He likes confession so much. And the name of this booklet is The Name of God is Mercy. And Pope Francis explains something that we meditated and we thought that's the key. So Pope Francis explains that he read a book, a story of a French priest, Abbé Gaston. It is a Roman we say, yeah? I mean, how do we, a roman, it means a book, a story. A novel. Thank you. And so in this novel, it is during World War I. You have the Abbé Gaston, Father Gaston, as a chaplain of the French army, and at the front they managed to get some soldiers, German soldiers, prisoners. One of them will die in a few days. It is obvious, his wounds and so on. And the Abbé Gaston, who speaks also German, thinks, I need to offer him the pardon of the Lord, the forgiveness, the sacrament of confession, the sacrament of reconciliation. I need to give it. He needs to go to the Lord with the forgiveness. And so he speaks with these soldiers, and as a matter of fact, it's a good confession, great confession, great. He confesses that this German soldier, that he was very libertine, do we say like that? Yes. So he had many girls, one after each other, or one in the same time with, so 2 or 3 in the same time, so you imagine. And so the Abbé Gaston would like to give him the absolution, but he does not feel that there is any regret. And so he asks him, do you regret that? So no repentance, no. And the German soldier answers, no, Father. Oh, may I die in a sweet company, like as I had. Wow, the priest says, he has no repentance. This is I cannot give him the absolution. There is no regret. Of course, he confessed everything, but... And so he will go to bed, the priest, he prays. He asks the Lord to give him a way, to open a way for absolution. And on the next day, he speaks with the German soldier again and said, you do not regret, huh? No, Father, I do not. Okay. So then he prays and he asks him, but do you not regret not to regret it? And at this point, you know, it was a very deep conversation, huh? And the soldier also was deep in this spiritual conversation. And the soldier answers, Father, deeply, really, in the depth of my heart, I really, indeed, I regret not to regret it. And on this basis, the priest gave the absolution. Because there was an opening, a ray of light. There was a wound. There was an opening. He started regretting. And Pope Francis comments that 3 times in these booklets, and he says, you see, that was the secret of the saints, like Padre Pio, John Vianney, and so many confessors. They used to find in their contemplation of God and of the human face, they used to see the ray of light. Where was the ray of light? As a matter of fact, John Vianney did invite his penitents to prepare for confession. You know how he installed the lying Jesus died from the cross, you know, lying, human size, with a wound in his heart. He installed it in the chapel of the penitents. And he just invited the penitents to stay there before Jesus' wound. Jesus' wound of love. Jesus' wound of love. Until the moment you will be aware that I hurt you, Jesus. I hurt the love of God. I have hurt the love of God. I have hurt the love of my brothers, of my sisters. And I feel something. Yes, that's the regret. That's the beginning of repentance. I'm crying for that. That's why he was saying to the penitents, I cry. I am crying because for that what you do not cry. I cry for that. I cry before the wound of Jesus, of the heart of Jesus. And Pope Francis says, if the penitent is in this regret, it is the wound, the heart opening itself. And Pope Francis explains the mercy of God is like a stream. And Saint John Vianney used to say, the divine mercy is like a stream of water that takes with itself all the human hearts. It means that only love, only the mercy of God may transform you, change you. And Pope Francis says, when the heart, our heart opens itself in this regret, in this ray of light, in this wound, the stream of mercy the priest opens through the sacrament, enters your heart, enters your whole being, and then the priest has no more to do with that. But the mercy of God will transform you in its time from inside, and will change your heart, will transform your heart through love, through His mercy, and you will be changed. And this is the experience, yes. This is the experience the penitents were doing in Ars. They just had an experience of the love of God, an experience of the mercy of God, an experience of the resurrection. That's the deep theological meaning of the sacrament of penance. It is a renewal of the sacrament of baptism. You die with Christ, you suffer with Christ, you die with Christ, and you rise again with Christ. The penitents just were doing the experiencing the resurrection of Christ through this sacramental encounter. Is that not beautiful? In this way, well, we really need sacraments of the presence of Jesus' heart, like priests, and opening our hearts or filling our hearts with the grace, with the stream of the mercy of God coming from the Lord. We need somebody in front of our community that would be, we as Christians, as baptized, we are a priestly people, no? And among the world, in front of those who are not baptized, we are to be the heart of Jesus' love to them and an intercession for them. But inside, within the community, in front of the community, we need somebody to represent Jesus' love and to tell us, yes, I absolve you, I give you the love of God. We need this alterity, we need this, as St. Paul used to say in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, we are ambassadors for you. in front of your community. Ambassadors, so that, yes, be reconciled with the love of God. But you do not need to write a list of sins to go to confession. Oh, John Vianney did not like that. Father Pio did not like that. Just be there before the love of Jesus' heart, the wounded heart of Jesus, and be wounded of this love. And just feel this repentance and go and ask for the forgiveness. You will have the beautiful experience of rising again with Christ. So it is a very short talk, but it was just the presence of this wounded heart among us, this humble heart in front of us, is it makes sense for us. It is Christ coming to us and calling us to his love, to his mercy. That's all. That's all. Void heart, wounded heart, zero. But if Christ fills your heart with his love, you will share it with your family, with the people, and it will be a renewal until the end of the world.